You're watching Money Matters. If long-distance phone calls are putting a strain on your wallet, there is some good news. New internet phone services are offering all the same perks of a regular phone line, only calls are made over the internet at a fraction of the cost as a regular phone line, known as Voice over IP, or Internet Protocol. This rapidly growing technology is catching on all over the U.S. and the world. And to learn a little bit more about it, we're joined by Don Albert. He is the general manager of the North American division of Skype, one of the leaders in that area. Don, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
So let's talk a bit about how this works. Voice over Internet Protocol, I believe, is what it's actually called, the technology. What is it?
Well, actually, I can speak to Skype, which uses voice over internet technology. Skype is a little piece of software that you download free at skype.com. It takes about 3 minutes to install it on your computer, and it allows you to make free calls to any one of the 136 million other Skype users across the globe, as well as to make phone calls to any landline or cell phone for just pennies.
And so how does that work? I don't want to get too technical, but you download something and your voice actually just travels right through the internet to somebody else who's downloaded that same technology.
That's correct. And we compress the signal much less than typical phones or cell phones, and therefore the sound is very surprisingly clear. It's almost like CD quality sound. But it's not just voice. Actually, we're allowing our users to make video calls to other Skype users for free as well.
And I've used this personally, and I've made calls to people in South America, Europe with this.
Okay.
I mean, it is quite good. How popular is this in the U.S. and overseas?
Well, as I mentioned, Rob, we have 136 million users, and our growth continues unabated. Last quarter alone, 23 million new users signed up for Skype, and we carried 6.6 billion minutes of phone calls.
Now, I understand that Skype was recently acquired by eBay. What is eBay using this technology for? Skype people are still making the phone calls. What's the tie-in with eBay exactly?
Well, there are a number of tie-ins. We recently expanded the number of categories around the world where sellers can include a Skype Me button in their eBay listing, making it very easy for a potential buyer of that item to ask questions of the seller and get an immediate response. So that program has been quite successful. We also are doing a number of integrations with PayPal, which is also owned by eBay, to make it easier for Skype users to pay for their Skype services.
And so what's the business model, Don, with Skype in general, though? If the phone calls are essentially free, and I think the software you download is free, are you guys making money on an advertising basis, or where's the revenue coming from?
Currently, most of our money comes from premium telecommunications services, such as the ability to call from Skype to a landline or a cell phone. We'll have about $195 million in revenue this year based on those telecommunications revenues, which is triple last year's revenue rate. But in the future, we're working on new advertising and e-commerce revenue streams like click-to-call advertising, the ability to see a link on the internet and call a merchant with a click of a button.
And do you guys, how is this likely to look, do you think, Don, 5, 10 years from now? Where is all this technology likely to be going?
Well, I think the internet, and Skype in particular, affords users a whole new way to communicate. It's really more than just cheap voice calls. So in 5 years, I can imagine that people will take video calling and video conference calling for granted. They will have the ability to share files and use those as a basis for discussion. And I think that they'll be doing it very inexpensively.
Security is always a big issue on the internet. People putting their personal information, credit card numbers, things like that out there. How secure is the technology that you guys use so that people can be sure that their conversations are not being heard or listened to by anyone else?
Skype puts security at the forefront. We know how important that is to our users. And in fact, all Skype communications are encrypted on your computer before they hit the internet.
All right. Well, Don, thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting stuff. Don Albert from Skype. And we'll all keep an eye on your growth. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.